Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my first ever YouTube video. So I'm starting a YouTube channel and it's called Life with Liz. So basically this is just going to be a YouTube channel about lots of different things about Life with Liz. Since quarantine started, I have kind of picked up a lot of new things like painting or cooking, baking, yeah, just lots of new things. And it's been really fun and exciting, so I kind of want to do some of that, but really what I think this channel is going to be is kind of an outlet of what God is teaching me right now. So I hope you subscribe. I hope this is something that you find on the internet that is authentic, and I hope it speaks to you. I hope it encourages you in any way that you need. So let's get started. Today, the title of my talk is Abide and Obey. So I'm doing discipleship with someone in my freshman small group, and we've been going through Exodus. I think that Exodus is really cool just to look at the relationship between God and Moses, to see the things that God calls Moses to do. Something that I thought about for weeks after talking about it is Exodus 14. This is after the people have left and Pharaoh starts to chase down the people because he's like, oh no, I just let all of our people go. I want them back. And so anyways, Pharaoh is chasing them down and the people are really scared because they think they're going to be overtaken again. We're going to go to Exodus 14, 10 through 22, and I'm going to read it. And it says, as Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. Moses answered the people, do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Then the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the waters so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. Then the angel of God, who had been traveling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved in front and stood behind them, coming between the armies of Egypt and Israel. Throughout the night, the cloud brought darkness to one side and light to the other side, so neither went near the other all night long. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and on their left. So what really sticks out to me is God could have parted the Red Sea on his own. Like, he did not need Moses to do anything. God is the all-powerful God of the universe. And yet he gives a commandment to Moses and tells him, raise up your staff. And there's another story where kind of the same thing happens in Exodus 17. So this is after the Red Sea is parted and they go through, but now the people need water. So it's chapter 17, verses 1 through 7. says, the whole Israelite community set out from the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as the Lord commanded. They camped at Rephidim. I don't know how to say that. Sorry, but there was no water for the people to drink. So they quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses replied, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you put the Lord to the test?" But the people were thirsty for water there, and they grumbled against Moses. They said, "Why do you bring us up out of Egypt to make us and our children and livestock die of thirst?" Then Moses cried out to the Lord, "What am I to do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord answered Moses, "Walk on ahead of the people. Take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink." So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel, and he called this place Massa and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled and because they tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" So again, in this passage, God commands Moses to do something, and then God works the miracle. First of all, I just want to point out Moses is abiding with God. Moses is in communication with God. When they're stuck and the Pharaoh is coming after them and they're just like, "Okay, we're gonna die," Moses goes to God. When they have no water, Moses goes to God and says, "God, what do I do?" So Moses is in communication with God. Moses cries out to God. He comes to him with his problems. He talks with God, and God talks with him. That's the first point I want to make. Is just the importance of abiding with God and having a relationship with him. God doesn't need us to do something for him, but he wants us to be with him. In both of these instances, God gives Moses a command and tells him to do something. I am just stumped at why, because of course he's the God of the universe. He can do anything. So why does he ask Moses to raise his staff? Why does he ask Moses to strike the rock? Why doesn't God just part the Red Sea and be done? Or why doesn't God just spew out water and that's it? And I talked to my dad about this. So this is something that my dad said, is that it's the grace of God that he invites us to have part in what he's doing. And I think that's so cool that the God of the universe lets us be a part of something that he's doing. And it's because he wants a relationship. He doesn't want to just string everything together and just do everything. He wants us to be in communication with him. He wants to be in communication with us. Yeah, he wants to have a relationship with us. And I think that, again, I don't know why. That's, I think, the biggest mystery of the gospel, of why does God want us? But for some reason he does, and that's so mind-blowing and humbling, but also just like beautiful. And like, I think of missionaries. God doesn't need a missionary to share the gospel with someone. God could give that person a dream or just miraculously open their eyes to him. But yet he calls people across the world to share the gospel with someone, and they get to see that happen. They get to see that person encounter God for the first time. And that is just incredible. Like, how cool it is to get to be a part of something like that. God didn't have to. invite them to be a part of that. God doesn't have to invite us to see what he's doing, but he does, because he wants to show us just how powerful he is. He wants to be with us and grow us. Also, it takes the pressure off of us completely, knowing that it's not up to us, it's not up to our performance. He doesn't need us in the first place, so it's not up to how good we are at doing whatever he's called us to do, or how good we are at sharing the gospel. It's not about that. He is going to move in that person's life, how he's going to move. So it just takes the pressure off of us and our performance, because it's not about that. It's about our obedience. So I do believe that God is going to do whatever he's going to do. He's sovereign. He can do anything. He doesn't need us to work for him. But it's his grace that invites us to be a part of it, because he wants us to see how cool it is. Which leads me into the last point. God is calling you to something. He's calling me to something. And we have a choice what to do with that. If we are obedient, or if we just continue to do whatever we want to do. And yeah, we could go either way, but there's so much blessing and grace and joy and excitement in obedience and seeing what God's going to do. And God grows us so much in our obedience. He grows our trust in him. Be obedient. You don't know what your obedience is going to do, and it builds your faith and your trust to actually act in obedience. And one thing that I think about, just with the example of Moses, is it takes trust for him to raise up his staff and believe that the Red Sea is going to be parted. It takes trust for him to strike the rock and believe that water is going to come out of it. He could have been like, no, God, I don't think that's going to happen. That's impossible. But he still obeyed, and then he saw the promise of God happen. He saw the miracle happen. Obedience leads to so much growth. And that could be your own growth, or it could be someone else's growth. Let's say that God is calling you to do something like this. Share something that God is doing in your life. That obedience could lead to someone else's growth. But then there are other things where God may be calling you to do something, and it leads to your own growth in so many ways. Like, maybe God is calling you to give up social media for a week or something, and that is for your own growth, because he has something else for you. He wants to bring you closer to him. He wants you to spend more time with him, because that's where true growth is. So obedience can lead to other people's growth, and it can lead to your own growth. What I do want to tie in at the end is verses 13 and 14 in chapter 14 of Exodus. I'll read it again, but it says, Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid, stand firm, and you'll see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." I think I may do another video on this another time of what being still looks like. But I don't think being still means inaction, because here God says be still, and then the very next verses he tells him to raise up his staff. Like, that's not being still, that's doing something. So I don't know if being still actually means just sitting there and not doing anything. I think that maybe it's a perspective in a place of heart of knowing that it's not up to you to work the miracle, that it's not up to you to work in other people's lives. You act in obedience you be still and abide in Christ, and he will produce growth in you. Something that one of my other friends said is that really our relationship with God is basically just beholding and seeing who God is and responding. Because when we behold and we see who God is, it doesn't just leave us the same. When we truly see who God is, it completely transforms us. We can't stay the same. And then that calls for response. So abide in him, spend time with him. It transforms you as a person, and it calls for a response. He will show you things that he's calling you to. And no, they're not, you have to do this. I don't think God is like that. I think if we look at it as an invitation, we see it accurately, that God is so gracious and that he just wants to show us how good he is, and he just wants to be with us. And so I encourage you this week to abide in God, to listen for what he's calling you to, and be obedient. And then the last part, be still, knowing that he will fight for you. He will bring about what he's going to bring about. And it doesn't matter how well you do. It's not up to you. It's not your performance or how good you do. Just be obedient to what God is calling you to, whether that's reaching out to a friend, or if it's spending time on a certain Bible study for your own growth. Yeah. So what is he calling you to now, and how can you be obedient to him? So each week at the end, I'll kind of say, like, this is the verse of the week. This week it is Exodus 14:13 through 14. Those verses about God will fight for you. You need only to be still. So yeah, I encourage you just to meditate on that this week. Abide with God and be obedient to what he's calling you to. I hope that this was encouraging, and please like and subscribe for more good stuff. Anywho.
So let's get started then.
So I do like this the whole time though. That's okay, I talk with my hands.